Yo, good afternoon. It's Monday Juma here from the Man United Agenda. I'm here to talk about all things Man United. And it's the 5th of January, like 5 days into the transfer window, and there's been no action. One thing with me, I think, coming up to the transfer window, we should identify our targets. On the 1st of January, I don't see why we shouldn't even be, as soon as that window opens, we should be flying in there and picking out our targets. But I don't know why it always seems to be like the last week or the last day in the 31st of Jan when deals are actually done. It's really complicated, this football business, isn't it? But how are you feeling, guys? How are you feeling about Man United? I mean, Ralph had his sixth game. He had his first loss the other day. And now everything's coming out. We're getting loads of reports about internally, inside Man United, the players are really like disheartened and things. So there's one source today that's saying that there's struggles behind the scenes at Old Trafford, various cliques, at Old Trafford. You know what I mean by cliques? Players have the groups, and then they're cussing other players and sticking together, and we're the big boys. It's a bit like high school, isn't it? You get in bullies, these cool gangs and the nerds and that kind of thing. It's really pathetic in my opinion. But this is what you get at. You don't think this happens, but it happens a lot in football, in a lot of football clubs. But you don't expect it to be happening at Man United with the sort of history we've had under Ferguson. He wouldn't have allowed that kind of thing. So they're saying there's cliques, there's bad feeling amongst the players, and there's division amongst the players as well. They're feeling demoralised, and there's a lack of desire from the players. So where, say, maybe the fans are thinking, oh, we're having difficulty adapting to sort of the press and the new training regime and that kind of thing, there's bigger issues apparently from this source from inside the club. And I think all this, if we were winning, nothing's really said. We won 1-0, 1-0, had a draw, whatever. But now, after the defeat, it's all coming out. And I think something that Luke Shaw said when we finished the game against the other day, when we lost to Wolves, Luke Shaw said there's a lack of togetherness. And I hardly ever hear Luke Shaw come out and say anything, So it's really, really interesting what's going on at the club right now. Like I say, we can only speculate, but like with when Ollie was there and they were talking about, it got leaked about the training being novice trainers and the training sessions weren't very exciting. This has all sort of reached the surface and come out into the public. And suddenly those guys that apparently were responsible, they've left the club. So it seems like there's no smoke without fire. So we have to take this sort of news kind of seriously. I think as Man United fans, we need change. That was clear that we need some sort of change. Ralph's come in. Whatever we think about Ralph, I mean, there's been a lot of speculation that he's not managed for he's only managed 1 year in the last 10. He's been doing board stuff upstairs and not really managing the team. He struggled at Schalke. Apparently after the season, he was stressed out and didn't really like it. And he came out, my brother spoke to me this morning. He said that he came out and said that Norwich and Crystal Palace and these lower teams, Newcastle, they would be higher in the Bundesliga, or sort of saying that the Premiership's really difficult because the work rate they put in, Norwich and all these other teams, what they put in, they would be a lot higher if they were in the Bundesliga or any other league. Basically saying the Premiership is really difficult. And it's not to say, I didn't see that as him saying he's a bit overwhelmed by how tough the league is. I saw that as a compliment to the league in a way, and just to sort of give himself a break, because any pressure, any manager at Man United is going to feel under pressure. So sometimes you have to talk to the media in a way to sort of relieve the pressure off yourself. So I saw that as a kind of taking heat off him and sort of highlighting how good the Prem is. But yeah, really interesting times right now because there's a lot of players, like we say. So we're saying there's cliques, there's bad feelings, a lot of division within the club. So I'm calling these guys the outsiders, and this is what this podcast is about. I'm talking about the outsiders, like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. They left the WWE, went to WCW, and they were called the outsiders. They've come in, they've disrupted things. They had the clique as well within, and that kind of things are bad for business and bad for the company, as it proved with WCW. So there's a report again today, like players are not getting playing time. So This is what I'm hearing within the club, and it's true. It would happen if you're a professional. You want to be winning. You're not getting the playing time. So we could hire. We could identify a few players who are not getting playing time. Donny springs to mind. Donny van der Beek. There's been a lot of uproar about him not getting enough time under Ole, and then Ralph's come in and hardly played him either. So what's going on with Donny? That is a big question mark. I just can't solve that puzzle right there. I don't know what's going on with Donny there. I think Donny's a quality player. I think Donny can play as a number 6. In any system. He doesn't have to be the direct replacement for Bruno. I'm a bit bemused by that. That's a really bizarre signing, isn't it? If you're going to sign someone and hardly play him for that sort of amount of money as well, and someone who's recognised as a top player in Europe, to add to that non-playing time group click, maybe Tellez, maybe Dalot. They haven't been getting enough to playing time under Ole. Obviously, they have recently. And Cavani wasn't getting much time, but then he was injured. And Bailey as well. Bailey's another guy who was sort of on the outskirts of the squad or the first team. And then there's group of players, which in any top side, you're going to have players lacking experience, and these would be usually the younger players. And I don't think they're going to chirp up and sort of moan about it unless they're a real top quality, and fans could see, oh, this guy must play. But we've got Greenwood. He's pretty young. He's our sort of starlet kind of player, but he is getting a lot of playing time. Also, we've got like Elanga. He's come into the fray recently in the last sort of year or so. He's sort of stood out as the top kind of youngster. He's top guy. He's a good player. He scored a couple of good goals when he come on and looked pretty impressive. But the other guys, I think we got in the youth. They're not quite ready, are they? I mean, we bought Ahmad for a sizable amount of money, and he's only featured 1 or 2 games, maybe 5 games in total. I'm not sure, but it's not enough. Considering the quality that he has as well. So they're talking about him going on loan. Is he happy at the moment? What would his thoughts be after making that big move? Would he want to make an immediate impression? And I revert back to a player like Angel Gomez, who I thought was fantastic in the youths. And he ended up leaving because of that same reason. He felt he was ready for first team. And then what we're seeing, he had a season on loan. He went to Lille, had a season on loan in Portugal, where he played really well. And now he's playing for Lille, and he's getting into the side, playing Champions League football and getting great experience. And he's proven to be a quality player. So we have to sort of manage the players coming through and keep them happy. Then we've got players that are lacking quality. Now, this would just be my opinion, and that would be the Freds, McTominays. I don't think they have the quality to be the first team players. So as we saw with the midfield the other day, we've got Wolves who really completely outshining us in midfield with quality players, getting the ball out of the feet, popping off, something we found difficult to do with the players that we have in there. And we've got Matic, who's good, but he's maybe getting on now. So we need to sort of get players in of that mould, And then there's the players with the poor attitude. And we can only guess who these players are. But there are, I believe, there are a few players in there because it's leaking out. This is why we're doing this show right now. It's leaking out. There are players with a click, poor attitude. Oh, God, look at this guy. He's not good enough or whatever. Is that a catalyst of Ronaldo coming in? Is Ronaldo with the high standards? Has he sort of, has he got his own Portuguese group now? Him, Bruno, Fred. I'm speculating now where they're saying, oh, guy, or Cavani, who think they're internationals and think they're better than the rest and not trying to uplift players. Are players sort of sliding on each other? What's going on here? Are they looking at Wan-Bissaka, for example, whose confidence seems to be shot right now and thinking this guy's not good enough, It's really tough. It's tough to sort of know what's really going on out there. So what gets me, here's my take on all this. It's like we're going around in circles. We brought Jose Mourinho in to sort of be this tough, disciplined manager. And the players didn't like it. You could see what's going on. He tried to push players, poke them, the carrot and the stick kind of mentality. And the players didn't like it. They started sulking. Luke Shaw didn't like it. Pogba didn't like it, And I think it was the players who got Jose out of there, regardless of the results, whatever. Jose did win a couple of trophies. He won the Europa League and he won, what else did he win? He came second in the league as well. One season, what he put down to, he said that was fantastic. That was one of his best achievements. So we went from Jose to Ole, who I felt was like Neville Chamberlain, the Prime Minister of England, who was an appeaser, who came to appease the players. And we had a good start, but at the end of it, he got found out because he didn't have any sort of tactical nous. And this is where we got found out recently. We were winging it, I felt, for the whole season. And now we got to this season, after finishing second, and we will have the poor run of results and completely open, you know? So we've gone back to type. We've brought Ralph in, who's got the credentials, like Jose, who can do something. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's got a great philosophy, he's got style of play, and he's seen to be disciplined. You don't mess around with him, that kind of thing. And already now, after a couple of weeks, it's all leaking out that players aren't happy. So I think it does come down to some of these players. We have to sort of, as Donald Trump would say, empty the swamp and start to filter out who these players are, why they're not good enough, you know, for whatever reason, for non-playing time, for lack of experience, for not having that quality, or having poor attitude. If you don't want to be at the club, because apparently there's a lot of players that we can name that prior to this, Lingard not getting enough time, Bailey not getting enough time. But then this is the issue. We've signed, when people start complaining, a couple of years ago, we signed Bailey a new contract. And I think there was a promise in there that he would get more game time, but he hasn't. He hasn't had that time. He played the other day and got injured. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's some issues there. Why are we keeping these players at the club when they're getting injured too much? And then when they do hype up or moan about it, we give them a new contract to keep them sweet. A la Henderson, our goalkeeper, who I think is good Premiership level, and I think is given the opportunity would do well for Man United, but we offered him a new contract to keep him sweet, and then they must feel let down. So they're feeling let down by the club because they say, you've offered me a new contract, but I'm still not getting game time, and now you're talking about me going on loan. You know, it's not acceptable in their eyes. So and then we've got players who are too comfortable at the club, like Martial, young starlet, great little talent from France. We got from Monaco, plays wide, you know. But he's touch and go. You just don't know what you're going to get from him. And I think it's because he's too comfortable at the club. There's no drive. I mean, there's a programme out, a new show about Brian Robson, who's one of my favourite players. I grew up watching Brian Robson. And I always go back and revert to him to see how good he was. And this guy was for the cause. Captain Marvel, they called him, because he was all Manchester United. A bit like Keane. But he was maybe even better than Keane. Some of the stuff he was doing on the pitch was amazing, you know. He would give his all. He'd always get injured from giving 100%, you know. And you have to look at these guys. They were going out drinking. They were, you know, their lifestyle wasn't great. But you would never notice that by what he put him on the pitch. So we don't have players like that with that sort of mentality anymore. Roy Keane, Brian Robson, you know, guys that Paul Ince, for example, who give their all. For the club. Go and watch some games from back in the day. I watched the game 1991 season, 92. It was Liverpool against Man U. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. Brian Robson, all his highlights. And you go and look him against Steve McMahon and all these guys. These guys, they would have been sent off within a couple of minutes playing over here. So it's a different game and different mentality with these players. So I personally think we need to wean out all the bad apples in the club. I don't care what your name is, whatever. Ralph should be solely in charge of doing that and identifying who's a bad apple in the club. Get them out. If they're lacking quality, if they're moaning about playing time because they're probably not good enough, then, you know, if you're not getting the playing time, work harder in training and prove yourself that way. Show a good attitude, you know, that kind of thing. What it makes you wonder, Wan-Bissaka, he's getting caught drink driving or speeding. What is he going out at night? Is he raving? Is he going, you know, what are these guys up to? You know, are they being professional? These are real big question marks right now, what's going on at the club. So we're the Man United agenda. We're just covering it. It's all speculation, obviously. We don't know what's going on, but we want the best for our club and we want to see performances improve. This is like dis-ease. When you say there's dis-ease at the club, it's like a disease. You know, there is dis-ease and it causes disease in the club. And it's like poison right now. So let's cure the problem by allowing Ralph to sort everything out, get the right players in. If players who aren't on board, they can walk the plank and leave the club. It has to be that way. And now we might have to sacrifice this season based just to get for the long-term goal, you know, just to get us playing better in the future. So I don't know what you guys think. I've been Omondi Juma talking about these issues. Let me know what you think in the comments and make sure you tune into the Man United agenda and get behind the team as well, because there are a lot of issues. You work in an office, maybe there's office politics, you know, you hate your boss. Everyone's bitching about the boss, that kind of thing, you know, and the same applies here in football. These guys are not being really professional. They've got a lot of money, and with that money comes power and lack of responsibility. They don't have that responsibility anymore, and they feel they can speak out and behave as they please. But it's not acceptable for us. We need to improve. We need to get that top four. We need to step up and be Manchester United again. But we are Manchester ununited at the moment. So let's sort this out. All right. Have a lovely day, guys. God bless.